Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
All the way from Las Vegas, Nevada today. At least it's a dry heat there. The co-founder and CEO of a company that really, to me, is much needed, definitely should be in demand if it's not. And that's where we're going to start things here. We've got John Kohl with us today with the company TuneGO. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
When we look back, you know, it's something that took place in 2008. And for a really big part of us in the music industry, we didn't realize the effect of the Universal Studios fire that destroyed hundreds upon hundreds of intellectual property. You know, tapes, masters, they were gone forever. And it was a time when we really still, even though we'd been in this business of a digital music marketplace, we hadn't really got around to digitizing a lot of that great catalog. And it really forced our hands of having to create something so this didn't happen again. Is that the reason you created TuneGO?
It's one of the reasons. There's a multitude of issues that we saw with what I would consider the foundation of the music industry, and that was a big one. The Universal Music fire was devastating. You know, like you said, there was literally billions of dollars of IP that was lost. But even if you just look at it from a human standpoint, there were literally copies of the original speeches from Martin Luther King. So it goes beyond just intellectual property and music. There was literally history that was lost in that fire. And one thing that always stuck out to me when I learned of that story was that Universal didn't even know the extent of the damage because the inventory log of the masters and the recordings that were in that warehouse was also in the warehouse.
Jeez.
So that gives you an idea of how antiquated the creative rights backbone of the music industry is. So naturally, that was a big problem that we looked to solve with TuneGo's technology platform.
Before we get into what TuneGO is all about and what it provides, a lot of that property that was in the Universal Studios fire, is any of that been recoverable? Now, when I say that, I know that the warehouse fire was pretty much a total loss. But, I mean, were there other copies of masters stored in other places, or was it irreparable harm? You mentioned Martin Luther King speeches, things like that. Was some of this content is it irreplaceable at this point?
It depends on who you ask. I know that Universal did their best to not let that story go public. I believe that the story eventually broke close to 7, 8, 9 years later, and then once the story did eventually go public, there were different reports on to the extent of the damage. So I think a lot of that is a little bit unknown, but it was devastating to say the least. And like you said, there was definitely some of those original mastered works that were most likely lost forever, which is tragic.
With a company like TuneGO, getting music digitized is not just to prevent destruction unfortunately in an incident such as this, but it's also you're archiving it, you're properly storing it, and especially independent artists don't think that that's what they need to do. With that being said, looking over the show notes, you state that music from independent artists accounts for almost $7 billion in revenue, which is almost 40% of the recorded music industry's market share. We, as independent people, not aligned or attached to major labels, major production companies, I don't think we really know what a big imprint that the independent music scene provides in this world.
It's huge, and it's growing every year. Every year that I have been in this music industry, that number has ticked up 1 to 2 percentage points every time I see the report come out. I think when I started TuneGO, that number was at around 34 to 35%. And then the most recent report that I saw, it was over 40%. And I think that's for some obvious reasons. Technology plays the biggest role in that. It used to be the case that if you wanted your music distributed to the world, you had to get a record deal. The record deal they controlled all the pipes. They controlled all of the highways and the freeways that got your music into the quote unquote record stores. But with streaming, first downloads, then streaming, and on the production side with, Macs and production software, now the barriers to entry to create music have been dramatically improved, and it's much more it used to be so expensive to get into a recording studio, where today, if you have a MacBook and some software, you can literally record an entire song from start to finish. So on the production side, there's the ability to create content much easier. That barrier to entry has been reduced. But then on the distribution side, there's plenty of aggregator platforms out there that you can go and submit your music for very inexpensively. And then 10 days later, your music's on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and all of the biggest music stores in the world. So that has caused the independent market to slowly realize that they don't have to have the label to get their music out to the world the way that you once did.
Yeah, I think from a traditional record label perspective, there were a few, a dozen, maybe 24 labels out there that really controlled the whole market share. And like you said, with the different aggregators we've got out there now, getting the music into the public's ears is a much simpler process. But that, once again, gets back to digitizing and securing that content. I have a project I worked on back in 2006 that we actually recorded live in 1989. And there's one, possibly two CD masters of that project. And the digital files do sit on a computer, but if the hard drive were to crash and those two CDs, grew legs and walked away, we'd be screwed. There's no way to account for that and bring it back. So how does TuneGO come into play and start providing that sense of confidence for someone such as myself?
It's funny you mentioned that. We always say that, your IP or your work or your prize, you put your heart and soul into music, you create this great song, it's sitting there on your hard drive. You're literally one coffee spill or one spill of the soda can away from damaging that hard drive and losing your work forever. And that's another big problem. So what TuneGO does is allow you to put that content into the cloud, where it's secured in the cloud. There's the redundancy of the cloud. You can't spill a cup of coffee onto your computer and lose your work when it's into the cloud.
Right.
So it provides you that level of protection. But then on the creative rights side, what is so powerful for the creative community is that when you put that work into the cloud, our system, our patented technology timestamps it and assigns it to you. So then no one can even dispute that you were the creator of this original work. There is no dispute at that point. There's the timestamp that associates you with adding that work to the cloud, where it's now secured and preserved.
When we talk about putting content on the cloud, is it just the master files, the audio files, or is it also the project and the stem files, the breakdown of the particular production? Can all of that be itemized to sit on the cloud? So if, once again, let's say you lose those stem files and you want to go back into the studio and fix something, is it possible to be able to gather those components and rebuild off the cloud?
Absolutely. One of our goals was to protect the creative work from the second that you have that creative spark. So when you have a creative spark, you may go to if you're a music producer, for example, you may start to lay the foundation of that beat. Or if you're a songwriter, you might jot something down in notes. Hey, I have an idea for a great hook, or here's a great verse. Or you might just say that into a voice memo. Hey, I have an idea. It's not even a song yet. It's just literally a creative idea that's going to evolve into the song. So one of the things that TuneGO does is it allows you to put that work while you're creating that music. During that creative journey, you can check all of those files into the cloud where every piece of that is timestamped. So again, the stems are timestamped and assigned to you as the original creator. The project files, whether you work in Pro Tools or Ableton or any one of the DAWs out there, you can add that to the TuneGO vault in the cloud. Your production materials, your voice memos, even if you've jot down something in notes on your iOS, on your iPhone, you can add that note to the cloud. So you can literally take all of these different files that are part of your creative journey before you have a completed song and add that to the cloud so it's protected and you never lose those components of a future potential masterpiece.
In the studio with us today, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada, we have John Kohl, who is the co-founder and CEO of TuneGO.
Hey, this is Travis Machad with Ghostwriter Music. Make sure you check out our episode on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Getting back onto the subject of storing your information in, I guess, what we would call the TuneGO vault, even though it's in a cloud, it's safe and secure when it goes into this vault. Let's back up a minute. We know now why you formed this company, what its purpose is, but how did you go about forming it? Because this is a pretty deep intellectual piece of instrumentation that you've created. So how did this all come about?
You know, I think that's a great question. When we do demos to, anyone from the creative community or the music industry, and that's everyone from your record execs and your A&R people to A-list celebrity artists, all the way down to your quote unquote bedroom emerging artist who's your next future superstar, we typically get a common question. And the question is, how did you guys think of this? How did you build this? Because it is a very robust platform that solves a lot of these problems. And my answer is the same to everybody. I didn't, you did. And what I mean by you did, I mean the music industry did. I'm a kid from LA. I grew up around a lot of people in the music industry. I happen to know a lot of songwriters, music producers, just musicians of all sorts. And I was listening to the problems, to the pain points of the industry, which the industry never solved itself. And I'm a technologist. I have a team of amazing technologists. And I think technology people think in solution-oriented terms. So when we hear there's a pain point or we hear there's a problem, our minds immediately go to, okay, how do we solve that problem? So whenever someone says, how did you come up with the concept of TuneGo? From my perspective, I just listened. I just listened to all the pain points across the spectrum of the music industry. And I thought, you know what? These pain points can be fixed for the benefit of the creative community. And then the more we took a deep dive into that, we really saw what a big problem we were solving. Everything from creative rights management, content security, and then royalty collection. I mean, that's the other big problem that we solve, is all of the royalties that are kind of sitting out there in the ether that aren't making their ways back to the creative community. That's another big problem that is solved with the TuneGo Vault.
Let's talk about that, because royalties, there's some different platforms out there that will, at least they say, and I haven't used them, so I can't answer that, but they say they will help you with regards to the collection of royalties owed. How does TuneGo fit into that?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. There's all these platforms, there's performance rights organizations, there's collection society, there's neighboring rights organizations. They all say the same thing. We will help you collect your royalties. The problem is sometimes they can collect royalties, but they don't know where to send it, because they don't have the right creative rights. They don't know what the songwriting splits were. They don't know what the copyright splits were. Sound Exchange, which collects royalties, for example, from Pandora and interactive satellite radio, according to their tax returns, they sit on $500 million a year in collected royalties.
Wow.
That they don't even know where to send it. And they say, we don't know where to send it because we don't have the right metadata, meaning we don't have the song splits. We don't have the contributor info. We don't even know where to send it. I don't know if they have a problem with it. They may not mind sitting on all that money, but either way, that's beside the point. They're sitting on that money because they don't know where to send it. And that's where TuneGo comes in, is that we actually organize and secure and protect the creative rights. So all the collection societies, PROs, neighboring rights, publishing companies, you name it, they know where to send that money back to the creative community. We kind of look at ourselves as that first mile. A lot of people try to be the last mile. We're the first mile, where we protect the creative rights so that the creators, the ones who are actually making this art, are the ones that can actually benefit from it by receiving the royalties that they're due.
I'm going to say we've probably skipped a stone across the pond, maybe 2 or 3 times when it comes to metadata. It is a very overlooked item of discussion, and a lot of artists don't understand. And I love what you talk about, especially when you get into song splits. When you have maybe not only just multiple songwriters, maybe you have multiple producers who get points on the project, whether it's a song or it's an entire album. Does TuneGo, I guess, when an artist is going to come on board to TuneGo and say, okay, I want to store my music, do you help them navigate those waters? Because a lot of artists don't understand the whole metadata principle.
Yeah, 100%. And I get it. I understand it, especially if you're an emerging artist. If you're an emerging artist, metadata isn't fun. It isn't sexy. It is not what you want to do. What you're trying to do is make a hit record, and you want to get that record out to the world. And so a lot of that slips through the cracks. But the average hit song today, has 10 equity owners, or IP owners, if you will. They have an average of 4 songwriters. They have producers who get points, like you say. They have publishers, and every one of these songwriters may have different publishers. So on average, you have 10 different parties that have a stake in that art. And so what we help them do, we try to make metadata cool again, if you will, or cool for the first time. What we do is we created a platform that is super user-friendly, easy to use. You can do it on your desktop or on your mobile device, and it helps you navigate that while you're creating your art, that it's going to help you catalog those song splits so that your royalties never get caught out in the ether and they always make it back to the creative community.
When an artist comes in with a finished product regarding their project, and they haven't kept good notes. And, I think in all stages of this business, and we talk about the universal fire, obviously they didn't keep adequate enough notes because they got lost. If the artist can't remember, who's who on the project, does that stall the process with TuneGo, or can you at least get the ball rolling and they can play catch up? Or what's that process when it comes to all of those owners involved in this particular piece of content?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that is one that we learned by doing our multiple focus groups and just talking to everyone we could within the music industry, is that there's different workflows. Like, for example, we call it the Nashville way of life, where in Nashville, the tradition is that before you even write the song, you sit down, okay, how many people are in the room? There's 4 of us in the room. We're dividing that song up 25. The splits are 25% apiece. Easy, done, no matter if you write one word or if you write most of the song, doesn't matter. We're all getting 25p. That makes it easy. You get all that information into our system even before the music is commercialized. Then there's the other example, well, like you said, which is actually the more common example, which is you created music, you were in a creative flow, you were probably in the studio or what have you. There was collaboration going on. You may not remember 6 months, a year down the line, that who exactly did what or contributed what. And so the way that we designed our system is to not stop the progress or hold up any progress, but be flexible and get the information as quickly as we can into the system. But it doesn't create any roadblocks. It creates encouragement for you to get as much information as you can, as soon as you can, but you can do it before the song is commercialized, or you can even do it after the song is commercialized.
Is there ever a point where it's, for lack of better terms, too late to get that information in? Or is this something that it doesn't matter at what point you are in the process, just get it and you guys will be able to get it plugged into the system where it needs to be?
I don't think it's ever too late, especially in the digital age of music, because music is, now that it's digital, music will live forever. Not that it wouldn't, but in the physical world, like a universal music fire, if you lost something, you lost it. Now with the digital age of music, with streaming, even with now there's NFTs, there's, music licensing is becoming more and more prevalent, that you need to get your metadata in order whenever you can, as quickly as you can. And music is now going to live forever in the digital world. So the faster you as a creative get that metadata and those creative rights in order, the better, because that music is going to be consumed, for on and on and on. I look at my kids and the younger generations. I think when I was growing up, or when my parents were growing up, you have the music of your era. It was like, I loved classic rock from this era, or I love the Beatles from this era. And I look at these kids today, they love everything because they're exposed to everything. It's really the first time that you actually have all of the world's music catalog at your fingertips on an Apple Music or on a Spotify or an Amazon or what have you. And so these libraries, the value of these libraries is skyrocketing because sky's the limit. And I think for that reason alone, the fact that music will forever live in a digital medium, that means that you need to, as a creative, get your creative rights in order as soon as you can and as well as you can.
Jumping ahead to submitting the music, is this something that needs to be mastered completely, fully evolved into that commercial perspective of releasing, or would you also incorporate into your vault any type of demos, subtracks, anything like that as you're building this project? What's the smarter move for that independent artist? To protect it as they're developing, or protect it once it's a finished piece of product?
100% protect it as you're developing. That is the ideal way to go. And again, because music is such a collaborative art form, that you're going to create a demo and then you're going to share it with somebody. The way our system works is that you create that demo, everything is timestamped, all of your work. You invite somebody, you essentially give them keys, temporary keys into your vault. So that whole entire collaborative process is also time-stamped and tracked. We create digital record of the entire creative and collaborative process. So one of the big problems in music is obviously content theft, intellectual property theft, and the disputes that occur when a song becomes a hit record. Then everyone comes out of the woodwork and says, I wrote this and I wrote that. Our system creates an indisputable digital record of that collaborative process if you properly use our system, so that it's designed to eliminate that domino effects of disputes that just cause problems for years and years and years. Like, a lot of independent artists don't understand that if a dispute gets filed against your music, that shuts down publishing revenue until that dispute is reconciled. And that's huge. That's your income. That could be your rent. That could be your car payment. That, who knows, that's valuable royalties that are now frozen. So anything that you can do to prevent that domino effect from happening, that can all be solved by cataloging your creative process in the TuneGO vault. And we make it as simple as possible. It's as easy as checking your files into the vault, which is easy as uploading them. Like, just as easy as you upload a video to YouTube or something to Facebook, that's how easy it is to upload your content to the vault. And then when you want to invite a collaborator, make sure you do it through the vault, so that the whole entire process is tracked. And then all of your creative rights, your contributions, and all of the collaborator interactions are all stored in this digital record that cannot be disputed.
It's almost like a sign-in, sign-out sheet. If you were to go into your safety deposit box in a bank, you got to fill out the paperwork, or they're not going to let you in. But if I heard you correctly, you can also, as the owner or the co-owner of that content, you can also allow other people to come in, but they have to go through the proper channels. They have to go through the process of signing in and signing out too.
Yes, they have to actually install the app, register an account, then they come into your vault. So we know that they came in from Los Angeles on an iPhone. They came in at 3:47 p.m. They accessed your files. They downloaded your file, which was your demo, going back to your example. Then if it's another songwriter, maybe they downloaded it, maybe they added another verse, and then they check it back into the vault so that you can see the progression of how that song materializes.
On the show with us today, John Kohl, who is the co-founder and CEO of TuneGO.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Are you curious about Gordon Lightfoot's songwriting process, or what it was like working with Prince in the 80s? Have you ever given any thought to what goes into a golf course design or writing a book? I'm Steve Waxman, the host of The Creationist, a podcast about people who create. Each episode features a different creator sharing stories that I hope will inspire your own creativity. The Creationist is available now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Since 1963, Korg has been creating new experiences in music and performance. That is what drove the creation of some of Korg's most legendary products, such as the Poly 6, the M1, the Electribe, the Triton, the Minilog, the Kronos, Wave State, Op6, and most recently the Nautilus, which is what we have here in our studio. Korg is dedicated to creating new, innovative, and uncompromising instruments which maintain the highest quality to inspire music makers, past, present, and future. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products and start creating new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
So, with everything that we've discussed, how does someone go about getting signed up for this? And what are the costs that are involved to get your music stored into this digital vault?
So it's super easy to join TuneGO. You just go to TuneGO.com and you register your free account. And you can start off with a free account. And then as you grow your catalog, it's a subscription fee that based off the size of your catalog. And our system works for everyone from an independent artist to record labels to music publishers. So we can handle an individual independent catalog, if you will, all the way up to a label and a publishing catalog, all in one system. But it's very easy to join. Just go to www.tunego.com and create your free account, and you'll be off and on your way.
I would think now that Universal Studios wishes you guys had been around about 13, 14 years ago.
I think they would.
Yeah.
I definitely think they would, yes.
And like you said, it's not only for the independent artists, but it is also for record labels to basically digitally secure their entire catalog. And that's something else that we sometimes forget, as you build your catalog, this is a great place to store it, right?
100%. In my opinion, it's the only place to store it.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a wealth of information.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
Never had one lesson.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.